Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. Today I would like to cover The Savage Sword of Conan, Volume 1. This is the Dark Horse, essentially essential collection of The Savage Sword of Conan, published in 2007 by Dark Horse Comics. These volumes are amazing. They collect and faithfully reproduce Savage Sword of Conan in that newsprint format that I love so much, with all the stark black and white quality that we came as fans to expect when we bought an issue of Savage Sword of Conan. So let's dive in and take a look at this. I will say at the beginning, if you find any of these volumes in the wild, whether it be on eBay or at a local comic shop, grab them. Many of them go for big money on eBay now. They're long out of print. I don't think we're ever going to see these issues reproduced in this format again. Many of these companies, Titan among them, are absolutely in love with the omnibus format, which I find to be one of the most user-unfriendly formats available for reproducing comics. It's slick paper. It's a giant oversized volume that you can't easily read. So this, in my mind, short of making it magazine-sized, because it is the size of a regular comic book, it is effectively an essential edition published by Dark Horse. This is the ideal format for reproducing Savage Sword of Conan. My only regret is that they did not reproduce the letter pages, and there was so much great info and feedback in those letter pages. They had some of the best letter pages in all of comics at the time. There are 22 volumes in this set. This is volume 1. My intent on this channel is to cover them all. I'm not going to linger on any one story very long. I just want to kind of give you an idea of what you're getting with these. The table of contents is really valuable because it gives you a snapshot of the creators on each story, on each issue. And so it's really important. And of course, they start with a reproduction of Frost Giant's Daughter, which would later be, this was published several times, both in black and white and color. So this is Barry Smith, Conan here at its finest. Then we're getting an adaptation, a black and white reproduction of Red Nails, also gorgeous. I think that's Valeria there with Conan. Look at this awesome black and white Barry Windsor Smith artwork, so good. I love Barry Smith's Conan. I have covered, I think, a number of those on the channel, including Rogues in the House, which is my favorite Barry Smith Conan story. I believe that's Conan number 9. So these first reproductions, I think, are from Savage Tales. Yeah. So Savage Sword of Conan came after Savage Tales. So first we get Savage Tales featuring Conan the Barbarian. So we have another Barry Smith story here, The Lurker from the Catacombs. And again, this is a continuation of Red Nails. Good stuff here from Barry Smith. His pencil and inks are so rich. And they really show out in this black and white format. So the bulk of this first volume is going to be Savage Tales. So next up comes Night of the Dark God, originally printed in Savage Tales of Conan the Barbarian number 4, May 1974. Cover by Neil Adams. Interior art by Gil Kane. Neil Adams, Pablo Marcos, Vince Coletta are our inkers. Roy Thomas, of course, is our writer. Not normally a big fan of Gil Kane's Conan. I like his Spider-Man a lot more. But this actually is pretty good. I would say owing to the inkers mainly. Boy, I'll tell you what, you can't turn a page without seeing a giant ape in a Conan story. They always seem to show up, and I love them. Maybe that's where my love of giant apes and apes in general in comics comes from. This and maybe from all those Gorilla Grodd Super Friends episodes I watched as a kid. So yeah, Gil Kane, while I'm not the biggest fan of his Conan, man, he can sure tell a story. His layouts are beautiful. It's really good stuff here. My volume 1 is a little bit bent. I got it on eBay. It's a little worse for the wear. There was a local small shop here in Pittsburgh, right in downtown Pittsburgh, where I actually secured the bulk of my Essential Conans. I call it Essential Conan, but it's really not. It's Savage Sword of Conan from Dark Horse Comics. So yeah, I have, like I said, I have all 22 volumes, and I consider them among my prizes, the prizes of my collection. Look at this great Neil Adams pinup. So here we have what, Savage Tales, is this Savage Tales number 5? It's hard to tell. The covers aren't showing up here. This is more Barry Smith though, Dweller in the Dark. This is so beautiful. Barry Smith's Conan, the only one who's able to really have kind of come close to Barry Smith's Conan, just in terms of style, is Raphael Keonan in Conan the Adventurer. He kind of channeled a little bit of that Barry Smith style. I just came across one of those in the dollar bin earlier this morning, day of this recording actually. Didn't grab it, but those are good. I may cover them on the show one day. So here we have Savage Tales number 5, published July 1974. Another Neil Adams cover. And so this one is The Secret of Skull River. Jim Starlin and Al Milgrom are our artists here. And this is an interesting combo. Jim Starlin and Al Milgrom, of course, teamed up. Look at that giant whacking Conan with that club. Of course, they teamed up quite a bit for the Captain Marvel run that Starlin had. I think when Starlin was doing Warlock, it was mainly Steve Leialoha inking him there. But this is a nice combo. You don't usually think of Jim Starlin when it comes to Conan, but he does a nice Conan. It's actually sneaky good. And these, of course, are classic Jim Starlin layouts here. The small panels, just brilliantly arranged. The use of closed and open panels. I love the way they're using the blacks here to set off the lettering. Gorgeous women. He draws gorgeous women here. And Conan himself looks amazing. Sorcery. Even Conan's wilderness-owned ears hear nothing, till with a sudden premonition he whirls. To find a great wood and metal door has lowered into place behind him, so silently he never heard it. So here's that giant again. Great full-page action shot here. This is the Starlin villain if I ever saw one. He's almost a bit too Marvel Comics for Conan in a way. He looks like he could step right into the pages of Defenders or Warlock even for that matter. But I love the use of these circular panels on the action too here. Really good stuff. And you know, don't undersell the quality of Milgrom's inks. Oh, this is brilliant here, this open page. With just the figure work, the figures in action, it's phenomenal. Wait, man, we've no need to battle, none. You've seen gold made here this night. I can make you a rich man, a king almost. A dream told me once I'd be a king before I died, but by Crom, take me. I'll win that crown, not buy it with tarnished gold. Conan's not having it, and he buries a sword right in this guy's chest. The nice thing about Savage Sword from my 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old perspective was they did not skimp on the violence, and they certainly did not skimp on the sexual situations, which, as a kid, I was totally down for both of those. So here we have Savage Sword of Conan #1. So we've left Savage Tales and now we're doing Savage Sword. And here we have, what a way to open, John Buscema, Pablo Marcos, of course, Roy Thomas, our story writer here. Totally great. This stuff is awesome. Curse of the Undead Man. And Red Sonja. Look at Buscema's Red Sonja is gorgeous. Even in that ridiculous chainmail bikini. I loved when Mary Wilshire took over when Red Sonja got her own series and they gave her actually a practical fighting outfit versus the chainmail bikini. I know it's classic, but it's just so dumb. This full page action shot, double page, I should say, action shot here is tremendous. And by Crom, I'll side with the living against the dead every time. Really brilliant. That one makes you really pine for the magazine size. Great pinup here by Esteban Murado. That's another thing Savage Sword had with so many great pinups. And then we're going to get Black Colossus. And here's one of our first, probably in the series, this is going to be our first team up of John Buscema and Alfredo Alcala. And man, I love Alfredo Alcala's inks on John Buscema's pencils. Buscema, I don't know if he liked them or not, but I think the fans really did. Later on in the life of this series, Alcala does a few solo stories where he does pencils and inks, and they're tremendous. But yeah, this is an adaptation of just an awesome, oh, that's great there. Conan in that Romanesque armor, that cuirass breastplate. Really cool. Chariot of the Man Demon, Chapter 3. Yeah, this stuff is just incredible. Oh, this is so great. He came out of the desert on a night when the world was blind and wild, with mad colors driven in frenzied flight across the shuddering stars. And here we go with another ape-like marauder coming in. Conan does do battle with his share of evil wizards here. Oh yeah, there he is there. He's the charioteer on this insane flying chariot with this desiccated, half-dead or undead camel pulling it. And there's our wizard. Thugra Khotan. Oh, that's so great. That's shades of the Mummy right there, the first Mummy movie. I think whoever worked on those CGI effects was certainly had seen this. Pretty great. So tremendous stuff here. I like too when Conan had the sometimes he would sport the vest here, which is great. So here we have John Buscema and Pablo Marcos on this story. Pablo Marcos, such a great inker. This is when Conan is sort of wrapped up in the various intrigues of the border kingdoms. Really gets down in the weeds of that local political stuff. Here we have a story, Demons of the Summit, drawn by Tony DeZanuga. He's got a definitely... his figure work is not as strong as Buscema's. I do like Tony DeZanuga. He's a better inker, I think, than a penciler, but overall, his art is very pleasing to the eye. He did a lot of great work on Arak. Chapter 9, Iron Shadows in the Moon, from Conan, Savage Sword of Conan the Barbarian, #4, February 1974. John Buscema and Alcala again. Really good stuff. Conan just splits this guy's shoulder here, cleaves his collarbone. And he runs him through. Of course, they show up on this crazy island. I wonder if this is another adaptation from a Howard story. I have to confess that sometimes I've read every Howard Conan story. We had a Boris Vallejo cover here. But sometimes the stories run together for me. Oh, look at this. So lush. And you could do this in color, obviously. You could colorize this, but the black and white format serves this artwork so well. They knew they were drawing for a black and white magazine, and so the use of black, gray tones was purposeful. Really good. Sergius of Crawshaw. So Conan's gonna kill their captain, and he's captain, right? Except they betray him, these pirates. And this guy saves Conan, but he's still the prisoner. Meanwhile, the pirates are getting drunk, and they're going to be attacked by the same mysterious supernatural force that had hurled that giant block earlier in the story. These seeming statues. Oh, it was actually this ape who hurled that egg. Well, how about that? Another ape. And of course, Conan lops his arm off here. And then finishes him in a close one battle. Meanwhile, these guys are being rended, the pirates are being rended limb from limb by these mysterious black figures who animate from statues. And they flee, and Conan is in possession of their ship, and he becomes captain. So, which shall be born? Number 5. This is adapted from Robert E. Howard. And this is Buscema and the Tribe. So this is a number of inkers. I don't know if it's Sonny Trinidad and some other guys. I'm not sure who the Tribe was. Here, of course, the famous Conan Crucified. Of course, they would take this for the movie. Similius would take it for the movie 6 or 7 years later. But this isn't just emblazoned in the fans of Conan's minds. Here's right, yeah, this would all be played out again in the first Conan the Barbarian movie, director John Milius. Really great stuff. You get a heavy dose of John Buscema in this first volume, and throughout, actually, the life of Savage Sword. You're going to see John Buscema return again and again. Now, later on, as the series matures, you get newcomers like Gary Quappies and Mike Dougherty and guys like that who are also very good. Of course, we're going to see a huge dose of Ernie Chan as we make our way through these individual volumes. Look at that monster, totally awesome. It looks almost like an Umber Hulk from D&D. And these artists will cycle between the color books like Conan the Barbarian and King Conan, later Conan the King, back and forth to Savage Sword. And again, your Savage Sword stories, more visceral, more gritty, more violence, more sex, more flesh being shown, because they had... the magazines did not have the same limitations of the Comic Code Authority that regular comics did. This is so beautiful here. Wow. Yeah. These Alcala inks on Buscema pencils are great. I love, too, the Desert Adventure of the Garb. It's just really cool. Here, Conan finds himself captured again. Captured and tortured is often his lot, but he always escapes, and he always does end his captor, usually pretty horribly. Or sometimes they'll be done in by a cosmic horror from beyond space and time. For amid the shouts of men, the whinnying of frightened horses, and the crumbling of the temple beneath, which he has slept for 1,000 millennia. The sleeper has indeed awakened. And this is right out of Lovecraft here. And of course, we know Robert Howard and Lovecraft were correspondents, friends, and they did share some aspects of the same sort of universe, if you will, in that Howard did contribute his bit to the Cthulhu mythos. And here, I think this is Nestor Redondo here. Oh no, sorry, Alex Nino. So this is People of the Dark, which I think was also adapted from Howard. It's a kind of a strange break because it starts in a modern era, but then this character becomes Conan through this sequence. He goes back in time and becomes Conan and adopts his savage ethos when he eventually returns to the modern world. But this is, again, this art here is not generally my cup of tea. I do think it's nice, it's cool, but I would obviously prefer the stronger pencils of the John Buscema, or for that matter, someone like Mike Dougherty or Gary Kwapis. But it's a neat adaptation. And usually in Savage Sword, you'd get a great letters page, you'd get the main story, you'd get some kind of backup story, some mostly Howard related, Red Sonja, Solomon Kane, something like that, Call. And then you would get maybe a bunch of pinups. Here's one by Jeff Jones. Great cover here, another Boris cover. Eventually, they once Boris hit it off as an artist in his career, they couldn't afford him anymore. So they would go to guys, and I think that was fine. I'm not the biggest Boris fan. I'm more of a Frazetta fan than Boris, although I think Boris is fine. But I really like the covers of Earl Norham, Joe Jusko, some of those other guys who would get cover art on Conan. And here we have Buscema and Alcala again in this Citadel at the Center of Time story. So we got Conan basically fighting saber-toothed tigers. I don't know if a dinosaur shows up in this story or not. I forget. I love this strong inks by Alcala on Buscema's pencils. Alcala really knew how to work the black and white format. You get a lot of depth and animation in this figure work and the scene setting here with no color, just grays, whites, and blacks. And here it is, folks. Another ape. You could have a drinking game looking through these volumes. Oh, there's a dinosaur. Every time you see an ape, you take a shot. And you probably would be hammered once you got through the end of just any random volume of Conan. I think maybe the apes are a little less prominent later on, but they still show up. Maybe they were following the ethos of Julia Schwartz from DC. Put an ape or a firefighter on the cover and it'll sell more. Fighting these cave dwellers. There's this proto T-Rex here. Awesome ballista here. Just does him in. Great stuff. Yeah, and here's Roy Thomas and Tim Conrad, who is actually another artist. I forgot about Tim Conrad, who's capable of channeling that Barry Smith aesthetic when it comes to Conan. He didn't do a ton, but what he did do was interesting. We have another backup here, Corsairs against Stygia. I don't know who draws this one. I'm not sure where the credits are. Looks almost, that's Gil Kane almost with a heavy inker. Yeah, this is where I left off in this volume. Next up, the Sacred Serpent. You got poetry too in here, which I thought was always cool. Look at this. This is very interesting stuff here. Super cool as we get toward the end. Curse of the Cat Goddess. This is pencils and inks from Pablo Marcos and very strong stuff. We don't get to see all Pablo Marcos art. You know, Pablo did a few full pencils and inks, like I think in Secret Society of Supervillains and some other odd titles here and there. Maybe in some of the Atlas Seaboard books, I think he might have done full pencils and inks. but we didn't get to see it. At Marvel, he was mainly employed as an inker, and he could take some of the weakest pencils and make them look pretty good. Here's Buscema and the tribe. So we're back to Buscema, which is great for our one of what I think is our final story. Cool stuff here. I love Buscema's women. I mean, the way he draws women is just so distinctive. This might be a Call story, actually. Come to think of it. It looks almost like Call. Part 4, Drums of Peril. Oh, this is a King Conan story, I believe, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think it is. Yeah, this might have been from, this is part of Hour of the Dragon. Yeah. And part of this would also show up in some Conan annuals. They would finish this story in there. Pretty great. Well, that's it for folks. That's my first run through a volume of the Savage Sword of Conan Essential Collection from Dark Horse Comics. So this is volume 1. There's 21 to go. I'll revisit this periodically on the show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends, and I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.